Hi, I'm Marci Winters, and I am going to give you some information on the astrological wheel. A lot of my clients, when I'm doing their chart for them, they don't have any idea what the astrological wheel looks like. So here is a picture of it. So this wheel here is comprised of 12 houses, and the 12 houses are pie-shaped, if you will. So each astrological sign that's represented here by a symbol represents also the 12 houses. The first sign is Aries, right here, and this is on the horizon. So oftentimes when someone in the West asks you, what is your sign, they're referring to your sun sign and where the sun was in the heavens when you were born. And the rising sign is the same thing as the ascendant. And the rising sign is what sign was on the horizon when you were born. So this chart is showing the first sign of the zodiac, Aries, which represents the first house, on the horizon. So if this was somebody's chart, their rising sign would be Aries. I'm going to go back to the first house and tell you more about it. This Aries is what's called the first fire sign. Then we go to the second house. It's ruled by Taurus. It's an earth sign. Third house, Gemini, air, our first air sign. And then we have Cancer. Fourth house, water. So you can see the pattern. Fire, Aries, Earth, Taurus ruling the second house, Gemini ruling the third house, that's air, and then water, Cancer, fire, earth, air, water. Again, we're having the same pattern. Starting at the fifth house again, we have a fire sign. The fifth sign, Leo, fire. Virgo rules the sixth house, that's earth. And you guessed it, Libra is air, seventh house ruler. Eighth house is ruled by the ever-loving Scorpio. And then we have Sagittarius ruling our ninth house. 10th house is Capricorn, that's earth. By the way, Scorpio, water, Sagittarius, fire. So starting again the pattern like we had from the beginning, fire, earth, air, water. Then we have the fifth house, fire, Leo, earth, Virgo, air, Libra, Scorpio, water. Back to fire, Sagittarius, ninth house, Capricorn, earth, and air, 11th house, ruler of Aquarius, ruling that house. And our very last house, the 12th house, is ruled by Pisces, and that's a water sign. Fire, earth, air, water. Fire, earth, air, water. Fire, earth, air, water. So there you have a little bit about the astrological wheel right there. And I'm going to break down the houses so you can learn more about that. So the first house, ruled by Aries, that house represents the self. It's called the I am house. The first house is not only about one's personality and persona, it also represents the body and form. If one has a lot of planets in that first house, sometimes it can represent that that person is a very athletic personality, because Aries, the sign of the first sign of the zodiac, that which represents the first house, is not only the fiery sign of birth, the birthing of the zodiac, the first sign, it is also the sign of action. So those that hold a lot of this energy, or planets that are in that house, that would often be someone that has a lot of activity in their lives. Aries also is the sign of the military. So sometimes it can be indicative of someone that has a military background, or even someone that works perhaps with guns in a gun shop, or in a gym, someone that works around physical education. So it's a very fiery, active sign, and it's also the sign of the child. It's childlike because it's the first sign, the baby. Leo can be really fun and childlike also. It's a sign of play. We're going to get to that in a second. But this is the very first sign of the zodiac. It's an explosive energy. So that's first house energy. Represents childhood as well. Second house is ruled by the sign of Taurus. And as an earth energy, it represents not only your valuables and your stuff, it represents also what you value. So the second house is about securities, it's money, that which we talk about, one's safety, deposits, and those kind of areas, money areas, looking for answers about one's financial karma. That house is a very good house to find out more about one's karma in that area. And oftentimes also this box, because it represents one's values and not just valuables, we can see a lot about one's integrity in this area. Let's move on to our third house. That's the one represented with Gemini, the twins. You see that numeral? So this is an air house, and the third house is about writing. It's about learning and teaching. It is about the mind, and it represents short trips and relatives as well. And it also represents magazines. So my son, not the son that I birthed, but my sun sign. So when I was born, the sun was in the third house. So if you can imagine that this is a picture of the heavens, because obviously our earth is not flat, it's round. So if you're looking up at night, and then where our sun was in the sky on the day that I was born, it was positioned in the third house. And I love to write. That's one of the things I do. I'm a writer. This also represents the sign of, as I had mentioned, of the mind. So intellectual pursuits are something that I fancy, and those that have a lot of planetary activity in the third house, they also may share that with me, a love of writing and learning. We're going to move on to the fourth house. The fourth house, ruled by the sign of Cancer. Cancer is a water sign, and it happens to be the most hypersensitive sign of the zodiac. Individuals that are ruled by Cancer have, for instance, their sun, moon, rising, Mars sign in Cancer. Oftentimes they are more sensitive in the sense that they take things more personally. That could be. And those with Cancer also like to hold on to things. If you can see the symbol, it's as if they're two crab claws reaching out to each other. And so those that have a lot of Cancer energy in their charts may have a hard time moving on from issues because they'll hold on to issues. Their emotional bodies are very sensitive. It is an emotional sign. All water signs are more prone to emotionality, and Cancers also, they're connected to the digestive system. So oftentimes when they go through emotional issues, if they're not even following their gut, so to speak, they can have stomach upsets and things of this nature. Cancer also rules the mother, the sign of the mother, and the home, and domesticity. Oftentimes, those that have a lot of Cancer in their chart, or planets in this house, the fourth house, they like to cook. Not all the time, but a lot of them do. And oftentimes, just like when you see these claws, the crab claws, individuals sometimes go into massage therapy that have a lot of Cancer energy in their charts. It's amazing when I do readings to see individuals, for instance, that's 10th house. I'm going to talk to you about that 10th house. It's a career house. And when there's a lot of Cancer in the career house, that often indicates someone that would use their hands in their business, often massage therapists, for instance. And those that like gardening, because this is a root, as you can see, it's the bottom of the astrological wheel, it's the root. And so one's roots, even gardening, people that have a lot of energy over here like that a lot. So that is a tendency of that house. The 5th house, on to Leo, the sign of play. It's a fire sign. And the 5th house represents children. It also represents love affairs. One's ability to be dramatic and theatrical can be noted in this area of the chart. So Leo, the house and the sign, is one of drama. And there are those that have a lot of this dramatic energy, but if, for instance, if your planetary alignments, for instance, what's called an aspect, how the planets in the houses are related to each other mathematically, if in fact you have what's called a square pattern, 90 degrees, for instance, of a planet in the 5th house to, for instance, a planet 90 degrees away, which creates a challenge, then perhaps one might not feel as self-expressed, because Leo is about expression. So Cancer is more shy. Those that are more closed off, like the crab that wants to go into the shell. So these signs are very different. The 4th house and 5th house energy, the water, fire here, are quite different, even though they're sitting right next to each other. So people born, for instance, on cusps. So that could mean someone, for instance, that's born February 20th would be a cusp of Aquarius and Pisces. This is a different cusp than this exact cusp here. But anybody that's born on a cusp between signs will often take on energies of both signs. And when those energies are very different, Aquarius, Pisces, you know, maybe not as different, because Aquarius is an air sign and Pisces is a water sign. We're going to get there. I'm going to talk to you more about that in one moment. But this cusp between the water here and the fire, that's extremely different here. So the energies are quite different, and individuals that are born in that cusp may find it difficult sometimes to integrate things in their personality, just various ways that they're processing in their lives. So it's just something to note, a little bit more of a challenge there for you cuspers. So it's good to get a reading to help with guidance on those issues and counsel. 6th house, here we are. This 6th house is ruled by Virgo, the earth sign. And it is called the health house. It's also the house of everyday work and duty. And this house, by the way, is also about one's service in their community. And it represents your work, not so much the ambitious nature of your career and the long-term focus that we're going to go into about the 10th house. The 6th house is more about your everyday duties, as I just said. So I'm repeating myself, but we have to note that this everyday duty is also connected to health, which the 6th house is all about. So if you have planets in the 6th house, it doesn't always mean that you're challenged. If you have, for instance, Jupiter, which I have, Jupiter is what's called the planet of good fortune and luck, and that and Venus, those two are what are called benefics. They're good luck, like a kiss in the chart, a good luck kiss. And I happen to have Jupiter in my 6th house, which means that my health, if in fact I am challenged, going through a crisis even, Often, with Jupiter there, I can recover quickly, so I feel very fortunate about that placement of Jupiter in my 6th house. The 7th house is ruled by Libra, and Libra is an air sign. This 7th house is the house of intimacy. Intimacy meaning your partners in love. It could even mean your best friend. Sometimes it can mean those that are marriage partners, or those that are best friends, even your kids if they're your best friends, even though I had mentioned that 5th house is the house of children, and we can sometimes note if in fact one is going to have a lot of children. Jupiter, that planet of abundance and good fortune in that 5th house, that would represent that. But going back to the 7th house of intimates, if in fact you have a really good intimate relationship with your children, oftentimes we can go there and find out information as astrologers, more about your karma with your children here. The 7th house is ruled, as mentioned, by Libra here. That's the sign of Libra, by the way. I don't know if I was pointing up a little bit and got ahead of myself, but this is what Libra looks like, and it's the scales, the sign of balance. And we all hope for that. Partnership is about balance, and Libras are also known to be pacifists, which is a nice way to look at the 7th house of intimates, that it's about creating harmony and peace. And that's what partnership is all about in astrology. And love, and designing and creating a loving relationship, because Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus, the Venetian goddess, is the goddess of love. And on to the 8th house, ruled by Scorpio, which has a bad rap. I guess because it's the planet, or the sign, excuse me, of birth and death. Actually, the planet Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. And Scorpio also holds Mars. The ancient ruler of Scorpio is Mars. Mars energy is warrior energy. I may have failed to mention that when I talked to you about Aries. Aries ruler is Mars, and that's the warrior. We talked about the military. And Scorpio, Pluto is powerful. Mars also active and powerful, all related and ruling this area of the 8th house. It is about other people's money. It's about inheritance. It is about, as I had mentioned, life and death issues, and deep merging those issues. Secrets are often found in this house. And also information about one's sex life, a more psychological approach of understanding your karmic patterns can be found in this house as well. Oftentimes I've noted that those with a lot of planets in this house, in this 8th house, because of the intensity of Scorpio, Scorpio is intense, and maybe that's why it has the bad rap, they're extremely observational. So that's also the detective. And those that have a lot of this energy are insightful, get to the depths of things. There is no BS. There is no superficiality with these people. And they're good to have around because they can see things and give you advice that's like no other. So they just see things deeper. So this house is the depth of the depth. Going on to Sagittarius. It's the adventurer of the 9th house. Sagittarius, ruler of the 9th house. The house of higher learning. Philosophy is encompassed in this house. Ashrams, those that feel the need or urge to either live or reside for a small period of time on an ashram. 9th house is where they may have a lot of planetary activity even a stellium. A stellium is a grouping of 3 or more planets in one sign. If in fact you have a grouping here in the 9th house, because it's the house also of foreign places and travel, so that's higher mindedness and going and traveling in your mind, or in fact getting on an airplane. Doesn't it look like an airplane, Sagittarius, and traveling in the physical or traveling in spirit? Those that have that activity here may be working overseas or traveling for their jobs. Okay, I'm on to the 10th house. This is the top of the chart where the midheaven is. I have a lot of activity up here. It's where the house of career is, right here. 10th house, Capricorn, work, ambition, that's Capricorn. Saturn is the ruler of this house. And Capricorn is all about climbing the hill. It's the old man that can be serious, and I can be in my work environment. I like to have fun. I'm, obviously I'm a people person, I believe, overall. But sometimes, because I also am a filmmaker as well as an astrologer, I find myself when I am in my work environment, because I have a lot of planets up here in this work career house, I find that I take on a different energy when I'm working, so much so that I can get really intense because Pluto is in that house, Pluto, that planet of intensity, Mars, the warrior, and I have Uranus, the planet of the astrologer, in that 10th house. So there's a lot of information about one's career that is found in this 10th house. Public image, also associated with this house. If you've got a lot of information or planetary activity rather here, then sometimes you may be written up in the newspaper, or maybe you're on TV and the public eye. Your environment is something that you're real connected to with your work. Also responsibility, a sense of responsibility is associated with that house, that Capricorn house. And we're moving on to the 11th house of Aquarius. Everyone thinks that Aquarius is a water sign, but Aquarius is an air sign. And Aquarius is the sign of friendship. It's ruling the 11th house, and the 11th house represents one's friends and associates, and also it represents one's dreams and visions. And not the dreams that you have at night, but the long-term goals that you have in your life. Aquarius, this electrical wave, isn't the way of the water. It is the waves of electricity. And Aquarius is known for thinking, ideas, mind energy, and futuristic visionary energy. So those with a lot of 11th house energy, they may be, if it's not afflicted, they may be very busy, running around with a bunch of different associates and going to meetings, and just a people person, for sure. A lot of 11th energy would mean a people person, unless the aspects are afflicted. And last but not least, the 12th house. 12th house is ruled by Pisces. And Pisces is a water sign, and it's a sensitive sign. Those that have Pisces energy, born with Pisces as their sun sign, moon sign, rising, Mars, are usually sensitive souls. And I already talked about the hypersensitive Cancer. So it's similar because, again, water, Scorpio, water, all represent emotionality and sensitivity. And the 12th house, here, Pisces, this is the God box. It is the house of spirit. And those that have a lot of planetary activity in this house, oftentimes they enjoy meditation. They enjoy being in an isolated place. Often, sometimes those that have activity here, planetary activity, will decide to live on an ancient Hawaiian island like Hawaii. Like me, I have Neptune right here, and Neptune is the ruler of this house. Neptune and Pisces are one. Neptune rules Pisces, and Neptune is that which represents spirit and represents the imagination. It is also representing the psychic and the unconscious, and that is what energies the 12th house holds. So the karma of your past lives also can be found in this 12th house that's ruled by Pisces. So it was an honor and pleasure to present the astrological wheel to you, and I thank you so much, Kaipacha, and all of the members of the New Paradigm community. I am Marci Winters, and I wanted to give thanks to the artist, Lily, Lilyas. She is the artist that created this beautiful astrological wheel. And just good luck with learning more about astrology, and so much love.